Ring Fit Adventure, Dark, and welcome to New Las Vegas. This is Staying In. I did my first Dancercise activity last night.
Dancercise. Is that not just dancing?
Yeah, it is. I've called it that. I was trying to sound hip and down with the kids. We've already discovered the kids have already been turned away from this podcast many a time.
Yeah, I don't think kids go around going, "Are you going to the latest Dancercise class?"
Oh boy, Dancercise! I love TikToking that. Yeah, go on.
It's like when your mum would say, "Oh, I remember I used to go night clubbing," you know. Veronica, my partner, who'd been doing this for a number of weeks now, every so often she'd get with her friends at like 6 p.m. in the evening and tune into Instagram Live. A gentleman called Ryan Heffington, who basically owns a dance studio. He's a choreographer who's choreographs many kind of famous kind of music videos, such as he's worked a lot with Sia, the Chandelier music video in particular. He did all the choreography for that. And it's basically an hour of fun, like 3 to 4 times a week, where basically it's that nice mix of you have like a proper warm up and warm down, but actually it's you can kind of interpret the kind of moves and dance however you want. So it's really up for like mixabilities, and you just have fun. So you're kind of, it'll start off with kind of being routines back and forth, side to side, and obviously you have to clear as much space as possible.
Especially with you around, Kris.
Yeah. Oh, I'm just like a windmill of bones, just limbs flaming everywhere. Twice I headbutted the light bulb hanging from the ceiling. It's just... He's also quite good fun. He's created his own kind of dance moves. So there's a list of them here. One of them is like the inflatable car lot man, which is totally me. There was the pretty pony, which I quite liked. The pizza zombie, we've not done that one yet.
The pizza zombie?
The pizza zombie, I don't quite know what that would be.
Oh, I thought you said pizza zombie.
No, hang on. Yeah, is it a piece of a zombie or a pizza zombie?
Pizza as in the
slice.
The meal of pizza.
Spell it. Don't do an action.
As in hand.
Pizza.
All right. Okay. So pizza
the
zombie.
Stuff turtles eat. Yeah. All right.
Yeah. And my personal favourite is just called Bob Ross painting.
What does that mean? There's no mistakes.
Yeah, there's just no. It's got to be perfect. But like you're there, and it's really quite cool because I've never done the Instagram Live thing, and people are commenting below. You've got people all around the world. There was like nearly 5,000 of us last night.
Right.
From Peru to Brazil to kind of the whole of Europe, basically.
And at any time, can someone like sit down and go, "I want to watch Kris dance now"?
No, you're literally just watching. You're just watching him, so you don't see each other perform. But what Veronica does is she has her friends up on like Zoom or Skype or WhatsApp on her laptop, and they kind of dance together via Instagram Live, which we use the kind of Chromecast and put it on the big screen. But it is a lot of fun, and it doesn't take itself too seriously, and it's just exhilarating. But one thing I did realise was that you know how everyone has their own default dance style.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, when you get to that point where you can't really think about it and you literally just pull the cord and whatever happens, happens. I realise that all I do as a default dance style is basically it's just all in the shoulders and the neck for me.
Yeah.
And when you're in a group full of people, you don't really notice you dance, but when it's just two of you in your living room, it becomes very clear that actually...
As somebody who's very self-conscious, I definitely have noticed every single thing. Like, I obviously you're the head and the shoulders guy. Sam is the laughs at everything guy. Like points to people and encourages people in. Sort of that's a big part of the move set for Sam.
Yes.
I spent most of my wedding dance section just encouraging you, Pete, to do the what's that song?
Macarena?
No, not the Macarena. It was that R. Kelly song remix, Ignition. Like teaching Pete that on my wedding day was one of the highlights.
You will notice that he did slowly dance more and more the more he had to drink.
What, me?
Yeah.
Pete loves dancing. He loves the expression of the body.
He hates it so much. He has to be incredibly drunk.
Would you say that obviously, like, it's kind of like darts, right? Is it? With darts, once you've had, like, I'm not very good at darts until I've had approximately 1.5 pints. And then I'm like, really, like, I feel like I'm quite good. And then there's a sweet spot for about 10, 15 minutes while you continue going, this is great. If I continue putting this into my body, surely I'll keep getting better. And then it goes beyond and you obviously get much, much worse. I assume, Alix, that my drinking and dancing essentially you just keep getting better with dancing. Because it's not like you need like aim on it.
You genuinely did. It's not, well, no, you got better because basically dancing is all about confidence. So if you feel like you're unbeatable, then you're going to dance better. And you did. You definitely danced better and better the drunker you got.
Yeah. I would love to see Pete in a pub, a time lapse of him playing darts. With each sip, the darts get closer and closer to the bullseye, and then they go past it.
And he's and then he starts dancing at the same time. It's just this like Venn diagram of Pete playing darts into dancing. Like
he starts on the edge of the dance floor and works his way to the centre, to the podium, and then
for a brief moment.
He's on the oche. He's just like, I don't know how I got here. 180.
And here he goes, line dancing up to the oche. Dear me. Very kindly for Christmas was bought something called Ring Fit Adventure.
Oh my gosh!
You've got a new friend, haven't you?
I've got a new friend.
Their name is Tip,
and I do not like. Wait, which one's Tip? There's two or three characters in it.
Tip is the androgynous person who guides you through the exercises.
Oh, okay. No, I like Tip. Tip I like.
Tip is love him.
Tip
top.
Love them.
Right. Yeah. yeah.
Tip top Tip.
Who I hate is. Do you remember his name, Alix? Because obviously you've watched me do all this. It's the Ring character.
Isn't that Tip? Is Tip the Nintendo person, and then the Ring is something else?
Yeah, there's the Ringy or
the Ring. I wish they just recorded more dialogue because they say the same thing over and over again.
Well, that and also the character who is the Ring says some very odd things to you every now and again. Like it's all about motivating. So I don't know if you've seen this at all, Kris, but basically
it's the girl in the well, isn't it? If you see the videotape, you've got about
yeah, that's right. Yeah,
24 hours to live.
So Ring Fit is basically this large, I guess, plastic and metal like physical ring that you get. It's a Switch game, and it's a resistance. It's a piece of equipment that gives you resistance, and you plug a controller into the actual metal and plastic circular thing, and then you also have you plug your other part of the Joy-Con into this little leg strap, and basically the leg strap will see if you're actually moving. It's all very good, well tracked sort of hardware that will see whether or not you're actually moving and doing stuff, and where the position of certain parts of your body are meant to be. And then the actual ring is marking the position of the ring in the space in the room, like what angle, that kind of thing, and also if you're actually pushing in on the ring or if you're pulling out on the ring. And my understanding, and Alix is the fancy gym person, so she'll know this, but is this HIIT training? Is that what it's called?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well
What's
done.
What's HIIT training?
Is it Pavlovian conditioning? Do you just hit Pete every time he does something wrong?
Get better. Yeah, it's high impact.
So what is HIIT training? I'm really interested because I know interval training. I'm not familiar with HIIT training.
It's kind of interval stuff, but it's high impact as well. So it's kind of like, if you're running, if you run really full pelt for 30 seconds and then walk for 30 seconds and then back on, back off, that's far better than just running for the entire time or just walking. The idea is that your body cannot get used to the exercise and therefore plateau because you keep doing, I don't know, really high. So I've seen in Ring Fit quite often you have to run quite a lot, jump, then it stops you for a bit and you do some like upper arm stuff, then you're running again from point A to point B. Quite often, actually. But then it does stop you in between. That's the important part. It's that rest part. And yeah, just really high intensity stuff for a short amount of period of time and then back to resting and then do it round and round again.
And so it does all of that with this ring, right? And the framing of it. And this is... I had to look this up because I was like, this feels a lot like a first-party Nintendo title, but surely not. And it is, which I find fascinating. So this is a first-party developed Nintendo title, so you know it's going to be well put together because they rarely miss. And the framing of it is kind of a JRPG. So,
really?
Yeah, it's really weird.
I think of it as, because I own a Ring Fit Adventure as well.
Okay.
And I like to think of it as Pokemon, basically. It's essentially what you're doing is running, having a Pokemon battle, and then running and then having another.
Right. And that's the thing. You're the Snorlax, and hopefully by the end of it, you're the Mewtwo, right? But like,
for the fans.
Yeah. So Pokemon fans just went, oh! So, yeah, I mean, like, so essentially you do some exercise, then you have a battle, then you do some exercise and you do a battle, and there is some tactical stuff to it in so much as the monsters have like different colors and therefore you'll need to use certain attacks against them to be more effective, and there are like power-ups and stuff that you can use. I must admit I don't really care for any of the strategic stuff. I'm just kind of like, I'm knackered, mate. I don't know, I don't care. But it's cool, and it's also more than the JRPG. It's also it's an obstacle course. So for example, you can point the ring at the floor and squeeze in, and that will actually like push you up into the air, and that'll help you get over some obstacles in the space. So it's kind of like a puzzle. It's kind of like a platformer, I guess, as well, but a very loose platformer. And then there's also some mini games that they added recently, some like rhythm action stuff that kind of feels a bit like Guitar Hero or something.
Yeah, they're really good,
and they're pretty fun. But but coming back to the character I hate, there's one character called he's called like Ringy, or like
it's just called, the name of the ring is just Ring.
Is it Ring?
Yeah, I've just checked. Yeah.
And like the other part of this game is it's all about like encouragement and being positive and being like, if you're tired, you should take a break. Don't forget, you should drink water. And like it's also like, remember, make sure you eat 5 fruit and vegetables every day. It's like very positive and nice and all that sort of thing. And then this Ring character is very interested in making sure that you feel really positive all of the time. And some of the lines of dialogue border into the I don't really like this. So whenever I've gone down the gym and I've seen like personal trainers and stuff, now admittedly that was a few years ago now, but I would see trainers be like, okay, give me 5. Okay, yeah, nearly there. Okay, give me another 5. And I would be just like, don't do that to people. That stuff sucks. And like, yeah, bro, yeah. Like, I hate that stuff. And Ring is the other side of that, which I also hate, which is there'll be sentences where he'll say things like, your muscles look so shiny.
Ugh.
And I was like,
he's never said that to me.
He's like, your muscles look so shiny. And I was like, okay. Like,
what version have you bought? Because I've not encountered that.
I'm trying to work out if Pete's more advanced than you, Sam, or you're more advanced than him.
Yeah.
Based on it's impossible to determine with that. Is it a backhanded compliment? I don't know.
It's
very odd. That's very odd.
Is shiny good?
The female one doesn't say it though, does she?
No, but she doesn't know. So there's 2
one
voices you can have now. Yeah, the male one is like, your muscles look so shiny, and I'm like, all right. And then the lady one's like, good job. And I'm like, thanks.
That's all I get is good jobs and you're doing great. And I do find it annoying, but I think that with this kind of the exercise that Ring Fit does, I don't find it as annoying, because sometimes I just need that little like, you're halfway there, right? Come on, just get through this, and then you can have a rest. It was when I was training for the half marathon and using the Nike Plus app, you'd be going on long runs, and then halfway through a run, you'd be like, you're halfway up a mountain. You can see the goal. I'm just like, please, I'm on a run. Just let me just focus on the run.
Yeah. I'd be like, halfway.
And I think the only time that Ring really annoys me, and I think this is the only misstep of Ring Fit Adventure, because I absolutely love it, and it was worth and it was worth the stressful 3 weeks that I had to put in to actually find a copy and buy it. Like, I have not put so much effort into buying a product since I originally bought the Nintendo Wii, like in 2007 or whatever it was. Right. I've signed up to so many stock alert lists. It's unbelievable. I'm still getting them now. Like, when I actually finally found a copy to buy, I was like sweating and shaking. You know when you got to buy concert tickets and it's like counting down in your basket, and you're just like, right, you're trying to put, have you ever had those dreams where like you got to ring 999, and you're just like 991. No, it's 998. I was just like trying to fill in my information, like come on before it goes. Like, and I didn't believe I was getting one until it was right at my door, and I love it. I think it's the best home fitness thing I've ever owned, and I've got like weights and yoga mats upstairs. Yeah. I had like the Wii Fit board and the PlayStation Move controllers. The range of exercises you do and how it tracks you in the space is mind blowing. I was
super going into it like thinking this is just gonna be another like faddy like thing, and I was sort of thinking, because I really wanted to try it, and as I say, like Alix got it for me for Christmas, and I was like, okay, well, I'm really looking forward to this. And Alix, you thought the same, right?
No, well, the reason I wasn't going to buy it for you until my friend who works out quite hard said that he was sweating by the time he finished one of the exercises, and I was like, well, if he was sweating, then it'll kill you.
Exactly.
And finally. So in all of this, the one misstep that it does, and it involves Ring, is that it actually has like yoga exercises you can do, and there's not like I've not yet unlocked like a specific yoga set. You can do like flexibility exercises, but there is like specific yoga exercises that you can do, and you can create your own sets. So you can create your own sort of like personal exercise plan. But the thing is, how Ring talks to you doesn't change depending on the exercise that you're doing. So I'm there in my living room doing like tree poses and chair poses, and it's like going dun 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 dun. Woo! Brilliant, yeah! It's just like
shut up, trying to relax.
You just centered the hell out of your chakra.
It's really, I think it is really conscious of like the part it plays in your life as a device. So you can have it set an alarm that even works in the sleep mode, so it will just like boot up and remind you, and also you can use it whilst the console's not on. So while you're watching TV, you can just like sit it on your shoulder and do like presses, and it tracks it all. Or just do like, as you're sitting watching TV or watching a film, you can just do crunches with the Ring and just like do like gentle workout.
That's not off-putting at all, is it? Watching a film with you?
It's not the optimum way to watch The Godfather, but no.
I started a beer subscription service, and it's been a weird moment in my life that I never thought I would do, but that's a kind of, well, it's just kind of like my shopping style for beer is like, if ever Kris is coming round and he's nice enough to go, oh, can I get you something from the supermarket? I'll always go, get me the douchiest thing that's on the shelf, and I will drink it and I will try it. That's my shopping style for beer. Just bring me the thing that you think just like looks the most pretentious or weird or strange.
Yep. And the cashier at Co-op is always surprised.
And so like when like going out was not really an option, and especially like shopping like for essentials, I can't spend ages like in the beer aisle looking at all the nice pretentious the douchey section. So I thought I'd try out one of these beer subscription services, and it's actually been pretty good. I got like a selection of beers, stuff that I would have never tried, like sour beers and porters. I've got one that Pete is either you're gonna love or hate. I've been saving it for last. Hang on.
Okay.
It's super niche.
Go on. It's super niche. Yeah, probably won't like it.
Now.
Here we go.
Now, hang on.
Here he is.
I will say that this beer has the words "Stay Puffed" written on it.
I've had one of these.
Have you?
Yeah.
Oh my! I've been saving it for last, and even I would never have picked this up on the shelf. So it's been worth the subscription alone for this.
Sweet.
It's basically called a coconut cream marshmallow porter.
Yeah.
Wow.
And
you would not want to get drunk on that.
So it's dark. The eye is dark. The nose is coconut/marshmallow, and the taste is coconut cream.
Oh, beautiful. It's interesting that you say that, because I also would not have done something beer related if it hadn't been for the fact that I couldn't go outside, and that is play the board game Brew Crafters, which we got sent this by Greater Than Games, and it's also from Dice Hate Me Games, which I think is the developer of it, or the designer, or whoever it is.
Yes.
And the reason that I say that is, so I actually did ask to be sent it, because I do find beer super interesting. And then when I got the box, it was with over 1 billion components in it or something like that. And I was like, oh no, I've got one of these games. And these kind of games are very, very big board games. And although I'm, quite a fan of very complex miniatures games and complex games in general, I do like those kind of things. I find really big board games quite off-putting, because I always find that there's a load of setup and a load of hassle, and then you're reading through the rules and it doesn't all make sense and all that kind of thing. So I like the theme, and then I got the box and I was like, oh no, and I kind of sat on it for a while. And again, the infinite wisdom of Alix Briscombe was, Alix said, oh, do you fancy playing that beer crafters game? And I was like, oh, well, yeah, maybe, but maybe we'll do it another day. And she said, if you don't play it during lockdown, you will never play it. And I was like, very true. So we decided to get it out. And
how much punch board was there?
Oh, dude. So, okay, let's start off with the agony on this, but which is basically the setup is huge to begin with. The punch board, so there were 6 boards, was that? Something like that?
Ooh.
You get a dozen baggies in this box, and I'm really glad that they
that's good.
They did that. Yeah, beautiful. Because honestly, if they didn't, it would be even worse to put together. So it took me about an hour to punch everything out.
What an hour!
What an hour! But what an hour!
Jeez.
And the thing is, the components are really pretty good. The very high quality stock and stuff like that. And then the actual, so then I went to bed, and then the next day woke up and started putting it all together. Carried on and started doing the first time setup for it. It was really, really quite challenging. I actually watched his name's Rodney something.
Yeah, Watch It Played.
Watch It Played. He's very, very good.
He's fantastic.
Is that Rodney? And he was. I watched him, and I also watched Rado talking about these things. And Rado's one was really good. Gave some really good tips about setup time and how to speed that up and stuff like that. And that was really, really useful. So the initial setup was punching the stuff out, and then I would say a good, what would you say, Alix? Maybe an hour of setup, half an hour maybe.
Yeah, it was a long setup. But we did it before we played it. That was the thing. We set it up well before we wanted to actually play. Didn't we do it the night before? Because I was then at least we can just get straight into it.
like Christmas Eve.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Under the tree.
But then it means that you can just get straight into it. It's the same as Arkham Horror, really. It's quite a big setup, and I found that with that as well, if it's going to get us to play it, then best to
set it up and
do it before.
Be like, right, we're going to do that tomorrow. Yeah.
That's the one thing that really annoys Lisa a lot, is especially if I'm like, oh, I really want to play this game, and she might not be that into it. If there's a long setup time, and I'm just like, well, let me just move that, and she's just like, I'm ready to play, and she's like, but I just need to move and pick one of these cards and do because we've been playing Great Western Trail quite a bit, and that setup does take a long time. So yeah, I do find myself starting to set it up, and then do you want to play this?
Yeah. So I mean the setup time is definitely off-putting. And then there seems like there's a ton of rules there. So I've heard it be sort of equated with a game called Agricola, which I've not played.
Yes, I've played Agricola. Yeah.
So the game is about building an engine, essentially, right? It's about you put workers in certain places. Those workers will then give you a certain set of actions. You can then use those results to build out the way in which you essentially run a craft brewery, and that's what this one's all about. So it's all about, the theme is very much about developing different kinds of beers, participating in the local community, to buying in spices and coffee and lots of different cool things like that. Going through the process of actually creating the beers themselves, running a little brew pub. There's a lot of detail in here, and the core, the basic game gets rid of a bunch of the different optional stuff that you can add on, and does add even more complexity. And
That's
I can
good.
totally see where there's a load of complexity, additional complexity here if you wanted it. But it's really funny, for so much setup, the game licked along, and we were done in like an hour and a half, an hour maybe.
Okay, that's quite cool.
Yeah, and I mean, I enjoy playing it. What about you, Alex? Because you're not the biggest beer fan in the world, are you?
No, well, to go back to the beer thing you bought one, I bought you one before, and then you bought one which had a load of different things in. That one is really weird because beer, I'm like, I've not really been interested, just like sport. But I kind of liked the ones that we didn't think I was going to like, so
right.
I was like, and it was a bit the same with this board game. I was like, I don't really know am I going to enjoy it if I really don't have any interest in beer. And actually, what I do like about it is it's all the little. Unfortunately, yeah, it's a long setup because there's a lot of little bits, but I quite like lots of little bits, and the art's very cute, and there's lots of little tokens that are representative of coffee and spice. And basically, I was just there like, well, I really want to make the pumpkin spice one, even if I don't care what the you're like, oh well, that point isn't as much as say the Russian smoky, and I'm like, yeah, but I like the cover of this one, so I'm gonna get all the bits for that. And it's got like a little kitchen and tiny little upgrades for your. You can put like a little pub on the side and different brewing things.
You had like a little farm.
So is the idea that like you're creating sort of like the best recipe, like the most efficient way to like brew beer and produce it?
It's more like this kind of set of turns, if I can remember. There's basically a board where every turn the board will replenish with say hops and different like malt, and as if a farm is producing all this stuff, and then you can get experts who get you coffee or cinnamon, whatever. And every turn there's 4 stages in each season, and obviously there's 4 seasons, and so you place your people to get those things. And if you stay on one bit of the board, say Pete can't get the malt that I just got, so you do it like that, you keep going around, and you put that in literally a little storage container in your pub, which means that you cannot go over 12 cubes because it literally won't fit on your little board, so you can visually see thematically how much you've got as well, which I really like. There's also a storage upgrade, so you get more space and that kind of thing, and these little blocks you literally trade in, and the whole point is kind of gathering resources to then spit out these things which are worth more points basically, and you can get more complex beers that are worth more, but I quite like that little like process.
I mean, one of the things I really liked about it was that you never feel like there's lots to do and you're never going to do all of it. Like, you always feel like you're the scrappy underdog. Like, I need to put my money into, like, I've got a big amount of money that's going to go out at the end of this season because I have to pay my staff, right? And so I need to make some quick money. So I'm just going to make some quick, cheap beers. Like, you're always making choices. So, for example, you just might not bother investing in a brew pub. You might just go down the research route instead. You might start getting specialists in. The choices that you're making are really, really good. And it's a Euro game, so you are directly competing with one another. And you are, the only real thing you're doing to like mess somebody up is, as Alex said, like placing your meeple in a location so that somebody else can't.
It definitely felt like we were working as like 2 little indie brewers.
Yeah.
And I didn't ever feel like... There was only one time, I think, where you sat on the thing that I needed, but I didn't feel too bad about it. I think there's a little fundraiser bit as well, isn't there? You can do like little fundraising things
like
and
a little
Kickstarters
fundraiser
and stuff to get money, which is cute.
Yeah.
And,
that's cool.
So it does feel like you're a small little pub trying to make it.
Sounds a lot like viticulture.
Right. I mean, it's very... I would say it's like super thematic, like very. The fact that they made a Euro from a craft beer game, it makes sense because the craft beer community doesn't really like most of the craft brewers are kind of like, they're not competing with each other. They're just like, well, they tend to share recipes or share ideas or share the same spaces or do that kind of thing, rather than like very big beer companies like AB and Bev, for example, like who are like super going after, you know, the profit margin. Like, craft beer tends to be a lot more like, well, if I win, we all win. Like, and there is definitely competition, which is why, but it is very, it's never quite trying to mess somebody up, which is perfect for a Euro. Yeah, as Alex said, like there's tons of components. The art is really, really good for the most part. Like there's like some of the beers just look really appetizing, which I think is really cool.
Yeah, the labels are really cute. I do.
Yeah,
really like the labels, and everything's kind of like this top-down map view of your pub as well. It's really sweet.
That's cool. I think for me, like I've not played that very many Euro games. Like it's a part of my collection where like the roll and writes have just kind of consumed all space.
Yes.
And so there's no room for like big box Euro games. Like Great Western Trail is probably the one. And I guess when we say Euro game, we're kind of talking about like, how do we describe it? Kind of like a very sort of almost like a solo experience shared with others.
Yeah.
Where you're trying to create essentially like an engine around like what's happening in the game.
Very close scoring.
Yeah,
I like to think of them as passive aggressive competition. Like you're never quite, you're never like, so for example, I think of Ticket to Ride as a Euro, right? Because I think it is, and like you're never directly trying to mess someone up, but if you happen to place your line over somebody else's, then like, oh, whoops, it looks like I messed you up. Sorry. It's kind of that level of competition rather than that Monopoly thing of I'm actively trying to take you out.
Definitely. And I think like for me, when I know that a Euro game is a success, is after I finished it, I then can't help but think about, right, what am I going to do next time?
Yeah.
Like what is a strategy I can experiment with next time, or what should I have done to change to alter things.
Definitely.
To alter things. So do you get that after playing Brew Crafters, like this feeling of like, right, that was fun, but I'm going to try this next time, or I'm going to experiment in this part of the game? Or...
Yeah, I mean, our scores were fairly close. You won because you had... Because you went for the ones that had the most points, and I, of course, went for the ones that looked the prettiest.
Yeah.
So I definitely... But I think for me, a Eurogame is also... Literally, while I'm playing it, I'm like, am I actually having fun and not feeling that somebody just, I don't know, was on the wrong square and I couldn't get that thing? Because some games you literally do sit there like, well, great, I can't win now. And that's not fun at all. I enjoyed it all the way through, even though I knew that actually it was closer than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, I've had that with quite a few. Lisa and I played Targi, which is an excellent 2-player worker placement game, and throughout it all I was convinced that she was just running away with it. I mean, she did beat me, but only by 4 points in the end.
Right.
But that's just the encouragement I need to get it out again. Because if it was like, if she'd beaten me by 20 points, I'd been like, well, what's the point? But because she only beat me by 4 points, it means I can immediately look back and go, well, if I'd only just done this bit differently, if I'd only just changed this little bit about like how I'm approaching the game and my tactics, and that would have been the difference.
So I agree, and like I think the only thing that puts me off wanting to do that next game, because I do think, oh man, how am I going to do this next time? Like, and what are other little expansions and stuff that come with the game? What am I going to add in next time? Like, we barely touched the other stuff on the periphery of it. Like, the only thing that puts me off about it is it just takes a really long time to set up. And I think that would be okay if it was like a big, of an evening, like, oh, it's like we're going to have 4 or 5 people in the same room, hanging out on a standard sort of like board game evening sort of thing.
Yeah.
Like, if it was like a big event, I'd be like, well, that's fine. The setup time is whatever. It's just that it's not... There is so much setup stuff to do that it just puts you off of that next time. So I think I'm gonna, when we run this again, we've put them into little baggies in a way that we think will speed things up really, really like much faster, and hopefully that'll work. And I hope it does, because I want to play it again. Like, and I think that's probably
as well.
Yeah, I think that's the best thing you can say about a board game, right? You want to play it another time.
Kris and I probably had one of the most complicated setups for a game recently when we played Welcome to virtually.
Oh, that's brilliant.
So we had this decision of playing Welcome to, which Pete, you've played, which of course is a flip and write. It's a roll and write game.
Of course.
And and it's really easy to play online because there's an app which replaces the sheets. You don't have to print out anything. So Kris and his partner were using the app, and me and my wife were using the actual physical sheets. And then we had the setup of the kitchen. There's a picture on our Instagram feed. You can see it now at Staying In Pod of like, we've got this 2-camera setup, one pointing at me and my wife, and then the other one pointing at the cards as I was like flipping them over physically. So then Kris and Veronica could then fill them in. And it was a lovely little afternoon.
It was great fun.
So much so, you went and then bought the game.
Yeah, I'm not a massive fan of roll and writes. They're not like my go-to. That and party games. But, like, there is something nice about Welcome To, and I think it is... And they are having a bit of a renaissance at the moment. Obviously, it's a genre that refuses to die, but I think actually the current climate we're in has acted as a catalyst for their popularity. And Veronica was like, I really, really like that game. I'd love to play that again. And I'm thinking of setting up similar sessions to you, Sam, with my family. Because as you say, they pride themselves as a company on this being a game that plays 1 to 100. So they're really supportive with the app. The app does all the scoring as you're going along. And, you know, as opposed to a roll and write, which has its own charm, if you make a mistake, you know, it's a bit of a faff of rubbing it out. On the app, you can obviously, with a press of your finger, you know, amend that error that you've made. But I could easily see this being something quite nice to kind of play with my family, really, as an alternative to the Derby family quiz night.
Well, hopefully the Welcome To app will update soon, because there is a brand new... Well, it's a sequel to Welcome To, which is coming out soon. At the time of recording,
go on.
Well, basically, the company that distribute it, Deepwater Games, along with Blue Cocker, have been really struggling with distribution and general logistics during this time. So the conversations I've had with them, they say end of April the game should be out in the US, but we'll try and keep you updated on Twitter and Instagram, because spoilers, this game is just this sequel is incredible. Kris, if you liked Welcome To, then Welcome To New Las Vegas to go back to a previous conversation, it's like they turned Welcome To into a Euro game, but also kept it as a roll and write. So the mechanics of the game stay exactly the same. You've got streets in which you're filling in numbers by using cards that are flipped over, and on one card you'll have a number that you've got to put in, and on the other card you'll have a certain power or an ability that you can use, so like raising the value of your of the points you're accruing, or in the case of Welcome To, like building a pool in the back garden of a house to make it more valuable, all this kind of stuff.
Right.
So like the core part of the game stays the same, but how this game was sold to me on, and to be honest, it didn't take much selling for me to agree to get a copy lovely sent to us by Blue Cocker Games, is that they were really careful in terms of like, you are aware that this is the gamer's game version of Welcome To. Like, you are aware that this is infinitely more complicated than the original Welcome To is. And I think when we say like the gamer's version of something, by that I don't know if you'll agree with me, by that I think we mean that as a game, it's starting to ask a lot more of you as a player. Like, you are going to have to keep the expectations of what you're going to have to keep in your head in terms of systems, mechanics, like interaction between players, interaction between those systems and those mechanics, like how the actual functions of the board are a lot higher in terms of like complexity and organization.
It's no longer a breakfast game.
No. So, for example, in Welcome To, all you're doing is putting numbers in streets in ascending order. And then if you can arrange those into blocks of estates, you get points for how big those estates are and how many of those estates you've got. But in Welcome To New Las Vegas, this one of the variations that they do is that you only score points if those houses are in groups of odd numbers or groups of even numbers, but they're still going up in ascending order. So if you put a 1 and then a 3 and a 5 and a 7, that's your group. But the minute you break that up with a 2 or a 4, then you're losing points and space to fill in the houses.
Oh my gosh.
So keep that in mind, Kris. And then bear in mind that you've also got to build hotels in this. So there are some hotels that haven't even been built. So you've also got to build them before you can then put numbers in. And then also bear in mind that building hotels accrues debt, which could get you minus points at the end of the game. And then there's another little thing where there's this like limo driving around that's great because it can go and pick up money for you to pay off the debt as it passes like a hotel owned by the mafia. And essentially you're driving around a celebrity, and the more sights that they can see, the more points you get at the end of the game. If the limo doesn't get back to where it started, then you'll also accrue negative points. Oh. And like those are like 3 systems in play in this sequel to Welcome to.
Oh my gosh. The temptation for me would be to just build a massive car park with the limo just parked.
Just like drives around. And it is a massive step. Like I genuinely thought that my wife would bounce off it in a way, because just the rules explanation is a bit like, and then this happens, and like there's always seems to be, you're doing this right, I understand how that works, but then this happens, right? And now, so you're always trying to think of like trying to get on top of how all these systems play and how everything fits together. But once it clicks, and credit to the design team, Benoit Turpin and Alexis Allard, like once it clicks, and it does, and it will, because the design is so strong, because it's a bit like Pandemic Legacy in the way that the design of Pandemic was so strong to start from. As long as you understand how that works in terms of like, oh, I'm adding cubes, oh, I'm taking cubes away. Just like if you understand the basics of Welcome to, which is there are still numbers and there's still actions, and that's it. Like there's no other more like input you have to do. Just what happens when you put those on the sheet has changed. Then as soon as you start to get your head around that, it's the most satisfying roll and write experience I and my wife have ever had.
Really?
Like it's akin to when we played the sequel to Ganshon Clever.
Jeez.
But I prefer this because there's a bit more theme to it. Like it feels like a bit more like, less like you're doing a GCSE or A-level exam with Ganshon, and more like you're actually building a livable like city. So yeah, it's really, really clever, really, really nuanced. I really hope that they start to manage to get this out to people, because I think it will really fulfill that. I think roll and writes and a lot that I play are quite disposable, but in a good way. Like they're kind of like, we've got 10 minutes, let's just throw some dice around. Yeah. We all know how to play it. You scored that, we scored that, fine. But this, because it's got that element of a Euro game, it really feels like you and Alex were saying, like, we've set this up. We're sitting down to play this.
We've laid the table.
Yeah, you've laid the table. Here, it's a lot similar, but you're just ripping off a couple of sheets, putting a couple of cards down, and you're ready, but you're having that same feeling of really investing something and feeling like your decisions really matter. Like there's a decision right at the start of the game where you decide secretly whether you're going to borrow money from the bank or not. Right. And then at the end of the game, it's revealed how many people wanted to borrow, how many people didn't. And depending on those results, depends on how much money the bank will loan to all the players. Huh. And so you could have set up your game in the hopes that we'll accrue loads of debt by building loads of hotels and doing loads of other actions, hoping that the bank will then pay off that debt later on. And that's like, could be minus, if you get that balance wrong, it's like minus 20 points. Like that's game losing gamble right at the start of the game. So hopefully the app will be updated soon, or they'll release a new app for it. Because Kris, I think that you and especially Veronica will go bonkers for this. Like it just feels like what a sequel should be, in terms of like, it doesn't in any way hamper what the original did and what the original sort of stood for and that footprint it left, but it just builds and builds and builds on it. And there will be a lot of people who go, well, I just prefer the original because it's simpler and it's, you know, easy. But there'll be a lot of people who'll be like, Jurassic Park: The Lost World maybe is a better film in parts.
Like
you had me right until the end. I don't know how to segue from that into what I want to talk about, because it's a massive tonal shift.
It sounds like a thing that...
it's huge. It's a huge tonal shift. It's a TV series called Dark, which it was one of those things that Netflix kept reminding me. You know that horrible thing Netflix does when it says, you are a certain percentage match for this particular series. Veronica's friend who lives in Germany recommended it, and it's a German TV series from Baran Boadar and Jantje Fries, and it's... Originally, it was Wiedemann and Berg Television, but then Netflix picked it up. And the first series is in 2017. There's only 2 seasons out, and there's only going to be 3 seasons in total. And that third is supposed to, I think, drop this year, although it hasn't been confirmed yet, I don't think. It's the premise that I think is the big sell for me personally. It's a small town in Germany, 4 families who are somehow connected by the disappearance of a child. And there's strange echoes of something similar happening 33 years earlier. And that is a very formulaic premise for a plot. I could be narrating the plot of something like Broadchurch, for example. But what is quite interesting is that this is a science fiction drama, and ostensibly putting time travel and time travel narrative at its core, because it's told across time, this story. It's told anachronistically. You're kind of looking at how this town, Winden, its past informs its future, and actually vice versa. So it does that kind of wibbly-wobbly, timey-wimey kind of stuff in a really quite interesting way. And you've kind of got these different characters emerging. There's Jonas, who's the protagonist, who's coming to terms with the suicide of his father. His fleeting girlfriend, Martha, whose younger brother Mikhail has just vanished. And there's these kind of loose threads that are dangled in front of you that you kind of, you've got mysterious burn marks on bodies that have been found, dead birds that are just randomly dropping from the skies, random power outages, a nuclear power station with a shady past, a priest that never seems to age, and this wandering vagrant who has turned his hotel room into this kind of like something akin to the basement of a conspiracy theorist, with all the pictures of the townspeople and all these strange incantations kind of written on the walls. But everything comes back to these caves, and they're a bit like, they're echoes of the kind of Greek caves to the underworld, and this mysterious thread that runs through them, where people will go in and some never come out, and those who do come out find themselves in situations which lead to further repercussions. So it's a mystery at its core, and I'm a sucker for mysteries. It's a whodunit, but also it's a when done it. And Sam sighs because I really like. It's one of the reasons why I like Inception. Inception is not about the kind of the relationships between characters in Inception aren't really fully formed or particularly interesting, but the concept of Inception is what interests me. I like that construction of it. I like kind of that anachronistic style storytelling. So I like puzzling out the narrative. It doesn't hold your hand. Like, you have to keep the characters, there'll be some characters that we play by 3 different actors because you're seeing them at different ages. And it doesn't have, a title card on the screen telling you who they are. You've just got to keep them in your head. And, and what's really interesting is that, like, rewatching it, Veronica's been rewatching it with me. For her, it's had just as much pleasure because I keep getting those moments where she goes, oh, of course. And that keeps coming throughout. And I can see her looking at me as something is about to happen, as the kind of the pieces of the puzzle are kind of slotting together, really. And they do slot together. And some of them are left to be slotted because that's essentially what the 3rd season will do. But it deliberates on those kind of things I was really interested in as a child, like the Eisenstein-Rosen Bridge.
Wait,
Christ.
No,
mate,
Kris,
come on.
That's
as a child.
As a child, I was fascinated by the Eisenstein-Rosen Bridge.
No, not specifically that, but there's kind of ideas around time travel, like the bootstrap paradox.
The grandfather paradox.
Yeah, exactly.
Sure,
yeah, all this kind of stuff. Like, it engages that, and it actually says, well, what if the real world ramifications and possibilities of that? And
that's cool.
I would go to bed at night and I'd just be thinking about it in my head, just the repercussions of this, and trying to piece together the kind of the family trees, the lineages, and the character relationships. And I just found that kind of like a really fascinating puzzle to kind of work on. And it's a slow burning but rewarding narrative. It looks stunning. I mean, the cinematography is phenomenal. Nicolaus Summerer and Ben Frost's music. It is just a gorgeous kind of mood piece. A bit in the same vein as something like Tom Ford's kind of A Single Man, or Nocturnal Animals, say, for example. It is gorgeous to look at. And it pushes the right buttons for me in the same way that Everybody's Gone to the Rapture does. That kind of cosy catastrophe genre that you got in literature in the 60s and 70s, where, you know, these world epic changing events are happening, but you see them through the prism of a local community. And in very akin to Rapture, you uncover the narrative of Rapture anachronistically, and the pleasure lies in piecing it together, because at its core, Everybody's Gone to the Rapture is a soap opera. It's the Archers with an alien invasion, and Dark is basically a soap opera drama, sometimes very melodramatic, but within this really interesting kind of time travel puzzle.
So do you say they've got another season of this coming, or is it?
Yeah,
is it
and it's always designed to be like this. So it is like a giant puzzle box. They've mapped everything out,
right?
So it all does slot together, and there's a real great pleasure in knowing that fact, really. And it's one of those things. It's a series actually I would enjoy rewatching.
Oh, Kris.
Yeah.
Oh, Kris.
Because it's a puzzle I like to solve, and it's been great for me at the moment to just have something. It's truly taken my mind off everything, basically.
It's nice to have one of those things, isn't it, where you have the thing that every once in a while you'll be sat there and you'll be like, I wonder what will happen with that character, and you start to think of like, oh, I wonder if they'll end it in that way or that way or that way or that way, and then you go back to normal life.
Or how did they get here? Like, you know.
Yeah.
I think the more you watch it, the more like you see that soap opera-ness like come through. Like, it definitely is a series that is more interested at pulling the rug out from underneath you at every turn than it is doing anything constructive or interesting with its philosophy. Like, at every single turn, it's like, but he was also his twin. It's like, here's my brother who you didn't know it was.
Well, it's sounding a little bit to me, and obviously I have quite a limited knowledge about all this stuff. It sounds a little to me like Lost.
Yes, but this is a bit more hard sci-fi and
a little bit more thought out.
But Lost was always very interested in being the water cooler discussion of like, oh my word, did you know that there was a bear? Or wherever the hell it was. Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but I just don't really care enough about the characters to remember their names or who they are. Whereas in Lost, I knew who they were and I was invested in their futures.
Yeah, I suppose.
Whereas now I just want to find out how it ends, and that's it. Like, I've got no investment in their survivability or
but I mean,
if they last.
It's a question of personal taste. For me in Lost, it was the island that was the interest for me, not so much. I didn't really care about the flashbacks of the characters. I'm interested in the mystery. I'm interested in that kind of the kind of the concept of it. In the same way that I'm not so much interested in the characters of Inception, I'm interested in that conceit of the dream within the dream sense, really. And it's about personal preference, and Sam's points are completely valid. Personally, for me, it's nice to be kept up at night thinking about how this narrative will play out and puzzling it through than other things, let's say.
Alix, in the last podcast, Pete was telling us about how he's having to share his Animal Crossing life with you, and you have to take you don't have admin rights.
I feel like I've taken over it. I think the only thing I can't do is put in inclines and bridges. That's the only thing I can't do. So I have to literally watch over his shoulder.
Yeah. Put it there.
You're not trusted either.
So how do you split your time, like, playing it, like, with Pete?
The thing about Animal Crossing is you do go through a sort of list of chores, and then you are kind of, I mean, it's possible to play it all day, but you can do a sort of quick, maybe half-hour thing, and you're done for the day until you have to wait for inevitably something to happen the next day. So we haven't found that I can just finish off my bits and then hand him the controller, and Pete does his as well. So actually the time hasn't been too bad. But it's weird. I feel like I've been hogging it, and yet there's a load of stuff that you've managed to get, which I don't know how, from people that you've met. And I'm like, when did you do this? Like, when did you actually... Maybe you've been doing it while I didn't know.
So you've developed a kind of a nice rhythm with that kind of... You've made it like a pass and play kind of
here's
experience.
The thing. Yes. Here's the thing. We get up in the morning, we feed Taco, our little bun, and then one of us goes and has a shower, and the other one will fire up Animal Crossing, and we'll start and do chores on Animal Crossing. And then the other one will jump in the shower, and the other person will jump onto their account and start playing and doing their chores on Animal Crossing. And then
passing the baton on.
Yeah, exactly. And then we'll sit together until we have to start work, because we're both working from home at the moment. And we'll talk about
our villages.
Yeah, we'll talk some nonsense about our villages, but also like figure out. I mean, you've been particularly interested in flowers, right?
Well, so Pete bought the guide, which I had only just found out before, actually, that the flowers, the genetics of the flowers, the coding is the same as actual genetics in flowers. So
I absolutely love that.
Yeah, it's like actual recessive and dominant genes, and you have to be quite clever about it if you want to get certain colours. So thankfully there is a chart.
You can basically like breed flowers to be the colour that you want on your island.
Yeah, but it's difficult. It's not as easy as like just put a red and a yellow together.
You have to get a bee to come over and
do its business.
Do its business.
Basically, it's like it works on every grid. Imagine, so red and yellow will most likely make orange, but there's a rare chance it might make purple, for instance.
Oh, so there's even like mutations.
Yeah, and you use the mutations together. So I put reds and reds together. That made one purple. So now if I can get another purple, then I might be able to make a black, for instance. But it is out of like maybe 10. Just red will equal red. You might get one purple, if that makes sense. So
and
the thing about Pete, though, is I have to take over, because this is the man that you spend so much money on updating your house. You walked in, first it's just, a storage room, basically, just chuck stuff on the floor, and then he went into his second room, which he spent 300,000 bells on, and it's just a room full of bins and toilets.
I mean, you do see someone's true colours when you put them in this kind of scenario, really.
Yeah. That's all Pete needs in life, is a storage room and a toilet.
It is literally like Bender's flat in Futurama.
I got a B-day the other day, and I thought, fancy. Yeah, it's interesting to see how different people play it. Like, I definitely am like, okay, I want to go the most efficient way through it. I want to complete the fossil collection. I want to get all the bugs and all the fish, and I want to make loads of money so that I can expand my house out. And like Alix, you're playing it. For me, I kind of see you as playing it of like the way that it probably should be played, which is like
the fun way.
The fun way, like talking with villagers, making a nice house. Like
ingratiating yourself into a community rather than just being like a botanist.
Yeah, I mean, I'm the mayor that actually gives, and you're the mayor that's just running around fishing.
Was
that
your campaign slogan, Alix?
Yeah, I'll actually improve your lives.
But it's interesting. It's super interesting, and this happened with me with New Leaf to a lesser extent, and Wild World. Super got into Wild World on the DS back in the day. It's interesting how much brain space Animal Crossing actually takes up. Like, for such a simple game, comparatively, the complexity comes with there's so much of it and like so many different systems that have this hidden depth underneath it, whereby the process of arranging flowers in the space is everything is on a grid, and everything you just plant the flower and it's done, right? But the complexity that hides underneath that is the system that runs it. And for you to figure out, actually what I want to do is get black roses. Oh, okay, fine. Well, now you need to start figuring out like which of these recessive gene roses are actually going to work out in your favor and do this. I mean, there are people who have like plotted graphs of how the stalk market works,
Like, I didn't realise it was this granular. That's amazing.
It's properly brilliant.
It's incredibly detailed.
Yeah, and as I say, I think the thing that kind of like we've started like talking smack about our villagers, but like I definitely see our villagers as having personalities. Like I will see something and I'll think that's such a Filbert thing to do.
Well, who's the most outrageous one in the village currently?
Right. So, well,
who do you think is the most outrageous? Go on.
I think it's between two.
Right.
We thought that Apple's a tiny pink hamster who is she's peppy. She's always going on about how she's going to be a pop star someday. In fact, but she never sings ever. So it's obviously a hidden talent. And she would be, she runs around a lot and she's nice to everyone. But slowly, I think actually, Filbert, the small blue squirrel, has started. So he's got a lazy personality, and this is where this personalities thing is coming in, because my friend has Filbert in his village, and he said that he just sleeps all day, and our Filbert isn't doing that. He's out all the time, hiding. He was in my garden, hiding in the bushes, and I didn't notice him until I saw an eye. Yeah, he's always got like little books out, but he also talks about the bugs in his house.
And the bugs that talk to him and whisper secrets to him.
Yeah, they give him like DIY ideas. And then Pete, you met him in a clothes shop, and he was like, "I love trying on other people's clothes and running around and pretending to be them."
It's like, okay, Phil, but the like, so for example, like the other cool thing is because you do it over a course of the game is played in real time, you'll see them day after day after day. And there's one character who, on one of the days, they came up to me and said, Hey, I thought you might like this, and they gave me a gift, and the gift was like a sports workout top.
Was it instant muscles tank?
And yeah, the day afterwards was an instant muscles tank, and then the day after that was a firefighter's outfit.
Yeah, and I think she fancies you.
And I'm like, is there something? Are we connecting? Oh, like
that's quite outrageous.
It's very strange.
That was another episode of Staying In with special guest Alix Briscombe, Peter Willington, Sam Turner and myself, Kris Darby. Thanks for sticking with us through what was quite an epic episode. We covered quite a lot of things there, really. Covering you in terms of exercise. We've got your body looked after, TV series, Dark. Whether you want to side with me or Sam, up to you. Please let us know. And your board game stuff as usual. A special shout out to Tammy, who sent us a lovely email recently, which made some excellent board game recommendations, including Gubs, which is a card game that looks right up my street, and I can't believe I've never come across it before, really. So if you want to say hi, feel free to email us just like Tammy did at stayinginpod@gmail.com. Or alternatively, you can reach out to us on your favourite social media platform. At Staying In Pod has you covered there, and thanks to those who've done that via Twitter and Instagram in particular. As usual though, really, it's old-fashioned, but it really does work. The best thing you can do is to tell a mate about us. We're continually amazed by the outpouring of support from all of you across the globe, and we'd just like to say again, thank you for doing so. It really means a lot to us. On a personal note though, check in with your local geek repository. That might be your local comic book shop or board game cafe, etc. See how they're doing, and if you can still support them from where you are. Buying a gift card or a voucher for a friend or loved one from these places, you can do a lot of good. See you in a fortnight. Bye.